Before the video starts, I want to give a small warning. I'm going to be very descriptive with what I went through, and if you don't feel comfortable hearing that, well, here's your warning. Another thing is that I'm going to change a couple of things that may be a bit too personal, mostly so that people don't go out or after some people. So yes, that's just a little bit. The overall story and experience is the same, but I'm going to change the small outside details, mostly again for privacy reasons. So that's it. Hello everyone, welcome to a new video, and I guess today I'm going to talk about the time I almost died. This story happened when I was young. I don't exactly remember my age. I know I was at school, but I don't remember much else. We were going to expedition with the family of a friend, and they wanted to go to some hot waters that were in a mountain. This is a thing that, at least in my country, it's very common to have hot waters on mountains using the mountain rocks to make the water be hot. This is very common. There's different places that you can go do that, and overall it was fine. I mean, I never liked hot waters. I have my own reasoning why I don't like hot waters, but leaving outside that it's like a completely different thing. It was a nice place. I remember that the car was parked at like the beginning part of the hot waters, and we had to go through a very long walk to get to the part where you can actually start diving into the water. It's usually a place to relax. There weren't that many people that day, and yeah, as you can imagine, it was fun until it wasn't. At some point in the evening, we started to notice that it was getting a little cloudy. We were warned by one of the people from the place that it was going to snow. Now, of course, I was a minor, I didn't get to say anything, but the people that were in charge of this trip decided that no, they were going to stay to watch the snow fall. Now, when you go to hot waters, you usually have to wear just your bikini or just your swimsuit, whatever you feel comfortable wearing. So we were in swimsuits in the hot waters when it started to snow. I'll give them this, it was very beautiful to watch the snow falling from inside the cloud. It's one of the only times I've ever been inside of a cloud, and hopefully it is the last time I'm ever inside of a cloud, at least that naked, I guess you could say. It was nice at first. We saw the snow slowly falling into the water, but it slowly started to become cold. And the colder it got, the colder that we all started to panic a little bit. We didn't know what to do. They were still very headstrong on the idea of not leaving, to just watching it till the very end. I don't know why, but that's just a thing they decided to do. There were hot waters that were a little bit hotter than the other waters, but even those ones started to get really, really cold. And by the time where they actually decided to finally get us out of there, everything was already filled with snow. Now, I know that a lot of people probably live in places that maybe it snows, and when it snows, it's very likely you wear, a jacket, some gloves, some shoes special for snow. It's very likely you wear something like that, especially because, it's cold, and there's a weird thing that when you touch something that's very cold, it starts to burn you. It's a weird thing that happens, but imagine being at a snowstorm, and you're wearing nothing but a swimsuit. So that was me. We didn't really have anything but a couple of towels, so I went out of my way to search them. I remember my feet were burning with ice. And yeah, it felt like needles were piercing through my skin. Someone already beat me to the whole towel thing, and when I reunited with some of them, they gave me one of the towels, so at least I could cover part of my body, the torso, which is the most important part. Then everyone slowly started to walk, but we got separated after some people had a little bit of trouble getting out or starting to walk out of the pain and the coldness. So I decided to just keep walking to get into the car. The walk was at least going downhill since we had to go uphill to get to the hot waters. Therefore, the path to going down, it would be downhill. You would think the path going downhill would be easier, but no. Even if I went really down, the snow never really stopped pouring. Now, while snow is very beautiful, when you're not prepared for it, it can really, really hurt. I started a long walk that felt like forever. The more I walked, the more my feet hurt, and it was like constantly burning. On top of that, the wind was very strong, and it was pushing the little snow that was falling into my skin, and it felt like I was constantly getting punched by little ice pieces against my skin, and it was like slowly burning me. Like, the air was already cold enough that it hurt, but the little ice that came with it was like constantly, it felt like needles piercing through my skin every time. I tried to measure this by trying to maybe turn around a little, so the most damaged zones would get like a little rest from it. So like if the wind came from the right, they would often just hurt my face. I would try to put my face on like another direction, so maybe it doesn't hurt that side of the face anymore and it hurts something else. But I quickly realized that a strategy wouldn't really work for me, because it actually hurts even more. Like, the place that it stopped being hurt, it's now resting, and it's hurting even more. I don't know how to explain it, but it hurts because it's no longer receiving something and it's just starting to heal. And the new part that is being exposed to the snow, it hurts because it wasn't exposed before. As a way to survive, I had to kind of give one side of my body and my face. So, it started to hurt so much that I was starting to get used to the pain, even if it really still hurted. Something that I always hear from people is that dying in snow is like the best way to go, because you don't feel hurt, because it's like sleeping, because your body loses temperature, and you just fall asleep. That is a lie. You don't fall asleep. In fact, you are more active precisely because it hurts so much. It really hurts. People really underestimate how much it hurts to die in coldness. It really, really hurts. One of the things that I remember was one of the worst was that I was breathing the air, but because my nose is moistured, it was like it was freezing inside of my nose, and the little like hairs inside the nose, I felt them freezing and I could feel them piercing through it. At some point, I could no longer breathe through my nose. It was just too much pain, and the air was so cold that it was hurting my nose from the inside. So I had to breathe through my mouth. The problem with that is that your mouth has saliva. As such, breathing that cold air makes your saliva freeze. And when you drink like your own saliva, it starts to get you cold on the inside your throat. I started to feel like there were needles inside of my throat that were not allowing me to breathe. On top of that, my gums are very sensitive, and in case you don't know, your gums also have like moisture. Your mouth is very wet. So they were starting to hurt my teeth through my gums. It was horrible. The best way that I found to survive in that situation was to cover my upper and lower gums with my lips. So my lips were used to protect my gums and my teeth from the air, and that way the air would mostly travel through my tongue into my throat. Top of that, I would try to breathe as little as I could so it wouldn't enter as much. And even with that, I was still trying to ignore the pain by imagining something else. So I would try to imagine that I was with friends and family and overall people who would give me warmth just if I survived and I get to the car. Probably the worst thing of the entire experience was feeling like I was becoming a corpse. Now, I don't know how to explain this, but at some point between walking in the snow and feeling weak and honestly just feeling awful, I started to notice that my feet stopped hurting at like the base of the feet and started to hurt around the ankle of the feet. So, I felt weird because at the ankle, it was like I had needles inside of my skin inside of my meat that were like replacing the base of the feet when it come to hurt. So I was feeling the needles, but it was no longer at the base of the feet, it was at the ankle, like on the inside. I don't know how to explain. It was like my own blood was being freezed. So, I was weird. Like, why do I not feel anything at the base of my feet? I only feel it at my ankle. So I remember just trying to get my composure. There was like a wall nearby. I was walking around the wall. I grabbed a wall and I just tried to touch my feet. It was a little bit hard because my fingers were no longer responding to me. But I touched it. I touched the lower, like the base of the feet. And I didn't feel anything. I don't know how to explain it, because like when you touch a part of your body, you feel like the part that you're touching and you feel your own hand, you feel it from both ways. But this time I only felt it from one way, my hand, which was not really responding much, but I didn't feel the response from my feet. The feet was almost like non-connected to me, and it generally felt like I was touching my own corpse. It was just like touching someone else's skin. It wasn't my own, even if it was attached to me. It was not responding, and no matter what I tried, my feet would not respond. The only reason why I even could walk is because the ankle was still alive, so I can at least try to move a little bit that, but not much else. Like, at least my legs were still working, so I knew I had to hurry up as much as I could, but due to the storm, I couldn't really see where I was going, and it was very desperation filled. I remember trying to cry, mostly because I was so scared and I was so sad. I felt like I was going to die there, but every time that my tears would swell, it would hurt immensely. It would feel like my own eyes had needles in them, and it would really hurt, so I would just close my eyes and try to avoid crying. On that note, eyes also have a little bit of water in them, so a lot of the times I had to use my own eyelashes as a way to protect my eyes, so I wasn't even seeing that clearly on top of the snow covering most of my vision. But you add the snow and then you add the fact that I had to almost no see and just barely open my eyes enough for my eyelashes to cover the inside of my eyes, so the eyes and the cold wouldn't reach the moisture part of my eyes. After some time, I don't really remember much. I don't really remember how my ears felt, for example. I do remember that I used my own hair to try and cover my ears as a way to, just deal with it. I remember that everything hurt, especially legs. And yeah, I just tried to survive. Eventually, I reached the lower part of the mountain and I was already feeling like I was giving up. I remember watching a couple of people hurry with like jackets and stuff like that to their own cars and doing their own stuff. And I remember feeling kind of betrayed. I know that those people didn't know me, but it kind of felt like people just left me to die there. After walking, not knowing what direction, everything just looked kind of grayish, whitish, kind of bluish. It was just kind of gray, light gray overall. I eventually, I don't know even how, I found a car and I got inside of it. So I guess I survived another day. Luckily, everyone who was into like this whole thing managed to get into the car and they survived. Something weird to note is that I didn't really feel coldness once I got inside the car. It was like I got inside the car and the heat immediately got to me and I stopped feeling cold and shaking almost immediately. Everyone was cold. They told me to get a jacket and they even got mad at me when I refused it, and I told them to just give it to someone else. A while later, I'm not sure why, I believe around 15 minutes later, or maybe half an hour, I'm not really sure, I remember that I started to shake and I started to feel cold. Maybe my body didn't react at the time as a way to maybe prepare in case of danger, but once my body started to relax and see that there was no longer any danger to be in the cold, then it finally started to feel really cold, like freezing. It was like a late response, and I asked for a blanket or something to just cover myself with. And that's the story. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things that I missed out, most because this happened so many years ago that I don't even remember everything. But I guess if you like grimdark stuff or you just want a reference for something, here you have this video. I genuinely hope no one goes through that, and don't stay inside of a cloud. That's not something real smart to do. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.